A left-sided centre-back is a priority for Vitor Pereira this summer. He has made it abundantly clear. Now in this video, I'm going to be giving you 3 suggestions that I would love to see Wolves bring through the door. There'll be a range of different options. There'll be some that may be a bit more expensive, some that may be younger, and then some that may be in the middle. So I hope you do enjoy this video, and let's get straight into my recommendations. First up for me is 19-year-old Turkish centre-back from Fenerbahce, Yousef Astroek. Now, I'm really impressed with him. He didn't have a hell of a lot of minutes last season in terms of in all competitions. He made just 17 appearances. However, 7 of them were in the Europa League. I believe he got a goal and an assist in that time as well. And generally, I've been really impressed with Akba for a long time. I think he's so comfortable on the ball. I think the way that he progresses the ball is really good and borderline elite. Hence why most clubs have been in and around him, to be fair. And I think his market value currently sits at around 12 million euros. So I reckon Wolves could get him for anywhere between probably 12 and 18 million euros, which would be absolutely brilliant piece of business for Wolves in my opinion. I think if he was to come in, I think there's a very good chance he would break into the first 11 pretty quickly, despite how much sort of I rate Totti Gomez. I think there's a very good chance. Now, if we look at his sort of statistical breakdowns, as you can see here, massive goal threat, an absolutely massive goal threat for a defender as well. He's in the top 1% for assists, 0.17 per 90. But generally, that's not where I want to cover things. I want to cover things here. First of all, he's in the top 16% for progressive passes, with 4.79 progressive passes from left-sided centre-back, per 90, which is absolutely ludicrous. And that's similar to Callum Doyle that I suggested in a previous video. He won't be featured in this video, as I've already spoken about him. But I think he's so comfortable on the ball. Now, of course, everyone's going to be looking at that thinking, oh, his pass completions aren't great, his carries aren't great. His take-ons are really impressive as well for a centre-back, but his tackles are outrageous. He loves to get into duels. He loves to sort of... He's not one of these defenders that always stands off. Sometimes he does stand off and knows when to stand off. But ultimately, he wants to be in the tackle. He wants to be present in that sort of moment and wants to get in there. So for me, I think that's a massive strength because I don't think Totti does that too often. I think Totti sort of tends to step off and let players run at him because he knows he's got that yard of pace if they do try and turn him or go past him. However, of course, there is every right to be concerned about these statistics. Of course there is. 4.11 clearances per 90 is still relatively decent in my personal opinion. And you have to remember he plays in the Fenerbahce side where he hasn't, played completely regularly this season. And he's someone, again, for me, that I think would be absolutely brilliant for Wolves. And one of the reasons that I've covered him is because, again, his injury history is not terrible. As you can see here, he's missed 2 games all of last season and 10 in the previous season due to a meniscus injury. But, again, 12 games missed. It's not ideal, but, again, it's not awful, especially considering last season was his most recent one and he literally missed 7 days. So, again, I think that's not too much of a concern. And one thing I do want to touch on about Akba is here as well. As you can see there, he did get a goal and an assist in the 7 Europa League games. But this is the Super League heat map for him for last season. And as you can see here, he loves to do what Totti Gomez loves to do and step into midfield. And for me, that's key for that left-sided centre-back in Vitor Pereira's role because ultimately we're going to have Wolfer in these areas. So you want that left-sided centre-back to be high up. You want him to be comfortable on the ball. You want him to be able to progress the ball. And you want him to be able to play, diagonal balls as well. Something that I don't think Totti does a hell of a lot. But for me, Akba definitely has that as well. So he's definitely a really valid option in my personal opinion. Next up is Ivorian centre-back Klemon Akba. Now, he played alongside Kiana Hervé last season in the defence for Auxerre. Obviously not necessarily directly alongside him, as he was the left-sided centre-back and Hervé was the right wing-back. But in terms of as a player, he has played with Hervé a hell of a lot. Now, for me, I'm a massive fan of Klemon Akpa as well. 23 years old, a really good profile, not too sort of inexperienced for his age as well, and generally someone that, again, I think could play at the highest level and go on to have an amazing career personally, in my personal opinion. Now, as you can see here, he's nowhere near the goal threat of the previous mentioned people, and also, to be fair, Totti's not either, so that's not too bad. But I'm looking more into his defensive statistics, and I'm really impressed with Akpa for a few reasons. As you can see here, 0.98 progressive carries per 90, putting in the top 19% for centre-backs across the Big Five leagues, Champions League and Europa League as well, which I think is really impressive. His take-ons, again, really impressive, showing that he's very, very comfortable on the ball. And as you can see here, this is a really interesting one. Progressive passes received, which means he's received the ball higher up the pitch, which is really important for me, especially for that left centre-back role. As we've said, you want that player in that role, especially in this system, to step into midfield, to have the courage to go forward, to be comfortable on the ball, to be able to make the right decisions in the final third potentially as well. And that's something that I think Akpa definitely possesses. Now, as you can see here, defensively, really impressive as well. 1.52 interceptions per 90, 1.99 tackles per 90 as well, putting him in the top 15 and 14% respectively for those statistics. And generally, again, I think he's a really, really good defender. I think he's really comfortable in sort of defensive areas. I think he's really comfortable on the ball. I think he very rarely panics as well, which is something I really admire about him. I think he's got that sort of that calmness that perhaps we associate with Virgil van Dijk in a way, obviously on a lesser level, but he's got that calmness on the ball. He's not rash. He doesn't, very rarely makes the wrong decision when he has the ball at his feet, which is key as well. And something I think we've definitely seen with Totti. And again, Klemon Akpa, as you can see here, he's missed 3 games in his whole career for a dead leg. So again, I know he's only 23, but he's still been playing for a relatively long time. He's had 2 caps for Ivory Coast's national side as well. And again, I think in terms of the fee, I think you can get him for probably 10 to 12 million euros. 12 million euros with add-ons, probably, to be fair. But again, I think it's a reasonable fee, a really smart pickup, in my opinion, for a player that could definitely go on to have a brilliant career. And again, like I say, one of those players that could potentially displace Totti in this side for me. I think he's that good and could go on to be that good. Now, obviously, there are concerns perhaps over his height. He's not the most physically, imposing centre-back. I think he's 5'11" or just about 6 foot, so generally not as massive, but neither's Totti, so at the end of the day, I don't think that matters too much. And then, obviously, as I've said here, he's only missed 3 games for a dead leg, so, there's no injury concerns really there. Now, if we just take a quick look at his heat map as well from last season, you'll see, as I briefly just mentioned, he loves to step in to the opponent's half as well, and he loves to pick up the ball here, which is where Totti does his best work, in my personal opinion. He loves to get it and drive it. He also defends the box really well, which is something that I think we like to see, especially when Wolves are under the cosh. You need those defenders that defend the box really well. Agba was in sort of ridiculous territory with regards to that last season. I think he had 12 interceptions in the box at the end of last season, Agba, which is brilliant. But as I've said, I think he'd be really comfortable in these areas, and as I said, I think he'd be able to drive up the pitch, get Wolves out of trouble, and also showcase his ability on the ball in the final third to hopefully make the right decision, whether it be a pass to Wolfer, a pass to Arias, who's cutting inside to shoot. Just generally, so many things that he could open up for Wolves in attack and in defence, really, in my personal opinion. So for me, Akpa is a great, great deal. Plus, he wears number 92, and who doesn't think that's cool? And finally, for me, is Abacarilla. Now, this is a more unlikely one because of how much I think he may cost, given the fact that he only moved in 23-24 to Strasbourg for 20 million euros. And Strasbourg have, of course, gone on to do absolutely incredible things under Liam Rosenior. But as I said at the start of this video, I was going to give you a lower budget, a medium budget, and a higher budget player. So Akba was the medium budget. Akpa was the lower budget, and this is the perhaps higher budget, but someone that I think's got an incredible ceiling, and I think he's going to have an absolutely top career. Now, for me, Abacarilla does a lot of things really well. As you can see here, he's a goal threat, more importantly, which, again, as I've previously mentioned, Totti just isn't that. Now, in terms of his passes, he completes 88.6% of his passes, which isn't outstanding, but it isn't terrible. And again, the take-ons are relatively decent in the top 25 to 26%, which, as most of these players have been in that range, really. And again, that's something that just is really comfortable. However, one thing about Silla is the fact that he may not be the best progressive passer, which is why this is a different sort of recommendation. But as an out-and-out defender, he is exceptional, in my personal opinion. As you can see here, he's in the top 2% for tackles across the Big Five leagues and Europa League and Champions League last season, which is just absolutely ludicrous. 2.56 per 90, which is just unbelievable. 1.71 blocks per 90 as well. Again, one of these players that wants to get in the way of the ball. He's not afraid to, but he doesn't want to back off. He doesn't want to let players run at him. I mean, he can let players run at him because he's comfortable in those areas as well. But in terms of as an out-and-out defender, he's definitely got that brilliant sort of, willingness to get in the way of things, and that's something that I really admire from centre-backs, in my personal opinion as well. And then, as you can see here, 5.97 clearances per 90, which is just absolutely ridiculous if you really sort of think about it. I mean, I think especially for Wolves as well, especially in them games, like I say, when they are under the cosh against perhaps the bigger sides, I think that will come in massively handy, and he's someone that knows when to get the ball and play it, but also when to just get rid of it. And I think that's the difference with a lot of centre-backs these days. Some centre-backs just want to play the ball out at all times, and often they can get caught napping. So for me, I think Silva would be brilliant for that. One thing we are going to touch on again, of course, is his injury history, as I know you're all very curious. As you can see here, it's not terrible when you actually look at the injuries that he's missed. So he's missed 3 games with a groin injury. It's not really that outrageous. And then dead legs have been 8 of them, which is ludicrous in itself. He missed 2 of them have been rest as well. A muscle injury for 1, injury to an abdominal muscle 1, and a knock 2 games. So when you look at the actual injuries, they're not that bad, really, to be quite honest. And generally, he is a player that I really, really do like. He's never played for the Ivory Coast international team. He's just played at youth level at the moment. But he definitely will be doing in sort of years to come, because I think he's so good. As I've said, 1.88 metres as well, which is a really good stature for a centre-back, and someone that is, he offers something different to this Wolves side. Also, as I said, he is a goal threat because of that height as well. And he was born on Christmas, so I'm sure you all think that's pretty cool. But finally, before we just sort of wrap up on Silla, let's look at his heat map from last season as well. And again, as you can see, he wants to operate in those areas. And as I've said, he's a really good box defender, as you can see here by his heat map. He spends a lot of time when Strasbourg want to sit in and, they're perhaps winning a game 1 or 2-0. They want to sit in and just make it a non-contest, really. And that's what they did a hell of a lot of last season. And often he would lump the ball up and find Omega pretty well from his clearances as well, which is really important for me. And I think he could do similar to Strand Larsen. Omega and Strand Larsen are very sort of, physically imposing, very big. And you like to think that, Strand Larsen doesn't win too many headers for a big man, to be fair. But I think he's one of them players that definitely would benefit from Silla's defending. And as you can see here, he only made 10 starts. So for me, this is one of the ones where I think it's really, really important that Wolves could get in there for him, based off the fact that, like I say, last season Strasbourg did so well. They signed him for €20 million in 23-24 as well at the end of that campaign. So for me, I think there's an opportunity there. I reckon Wolves could pick him up for 28 million euros. What's that, about £25 million, something like that, which may seem like a big outlay. But I do think he's one of those players that's good enough to come straight into the side. And I do think he'll go on to have a brilliant career no matter where he ends up, to be honest. So for me, the final option of Abacarilla is definitely another one that's probably on the higher end of the budget to also consider for Wolverhampton Wanderers next season. Now, if you did enjoy this video, as always, I'd really appreciate it if you would like it, share it with your friends, comment below what you think about the suggestions, what players you may like to see come in as well. There may be players that you want to see that I have not touched on. And also let me know what you thought about the video as well. I hope you did really enjoy it today. I really enjoyed making these type of recommendation videos and showcasing my knowledge to you guys, and hopefully you guys can learn something about players that you may never have heard of. And like I say, please, more importantly, subscribe to the channel, because I think we're about 30 away from 1.9k. And as I said, we hope to get 2k before the start of the Premier League season, which is very unlikely. But I'm sure we can do it. We've got a brilliant community on here, and I can't thank you all enough. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you really enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.